About a month ago, I was surfing Facebook when an ad on Amazon popped up for a guitar company called FESLEY. And as luck would have it, a few weeks ago, they reached out to me wondering if I would be interested in doing a review of one of their guitars. They were kind enough to send me this, the FST350m in Morandi Blue. So what we're going to do is start with an unboxing. I'll go over everything it comes with. I'll do a bunch of demos and give you guys a good idea of how this guitar sounds. We'll get into the specifications so you know exactly what this guitar is. From there, I'll give you the pros, cons, and my thoughts on it. Let's dive in. Alright, so it is single boxed, but it comes in a full padded case, which actually, considering the price point of this guitar, it's a fairly nice case. What you can see on the back side here of the camera is that there is a little bit of styrofoam in the box. It's padded around the edges here, so it is pretty well protected. Around the top they have the tools and trem bar included. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and give you a quick overview of it, and then maybe do some demos, and finally a review. So this is the FESLEY FST350m in the Morandi Blue color. You can see here it's kind of a light blue, and I do like the color. It is a matte finish, so you can see there is no gloss reflection to it. The body is poplar, which is, typical among budget instruments. Basic trim system on here with a humbucker and 2 single coil layout, basically a super strat, 2-tone, 1 volume, and a 5-way switch. Looking towards the neck here, we have 22 nickel frets, which are on a maple fretboard with a maple neck. It is indeed a 25.5 scale, and it's a basic headstock with closed machine tuners. These guitars are Chinese made, as evidenced here, made in PRC, People's Republic of China. So at the time of this video, these guitars are under $200 on Amazon. I'll be sure to leave some affiliate links in the description. Just keep in mind I may earn a small commission from it. Also, a quick thanks to FESLEY. They were kind enough to give me a 5% off coupon code for you guys, so I'll be sure to leave that in the description as well. So what I'm going to do now is take this guitar, next 2 or 3 days, put about 10 hours worth of playing time, at least 10 hours worth of playing time on it, get a really good feel for it, give you a full review, pros, cons, everything you need to know so you can make an informed decision as to whether or not this is the guitar for you. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is a quick clean channel demo, and one of the things you'll notice right away is when you're in this pickup position, when you're in the neck pickup position, and the middle pickup position, there's just a little bit too much hum, which you can probably hear now. Tone sounds good, just a little bit of excess hum. So the tone itself sounds good. Going into the second position here, you're actually activating both of these pickups, and that eliminates that. It basically acts like a humbucker, so you're good. And I think for the clean channel, that's probably my favorite pickup position. It just has a nice... Moving over to the bridge humbucker, it's definitely twangier and a bit brighter. So what I'm going to do now is add some distortion to it and see how this guitar sounds. I had a friend of mine call me up the other day and asked me to re-record an intro solo I did for him. So I'm going to do it on the FESLEY and see how it sounds. Alright, so we got the trem bar on now. I'll do a quick trem demo for you. I'm not much of a trem guy, so take it for what it's worth. But this trem bar does thread on, and I've seen in a couple other videos they had where it was a push on. I think maybe they've gone to a threaded version of that. But either way, that's what I've got, so that's what I would expect if I were you. So next I'm just going to do some basic power chords with a drum beat behind it and some distortion. Give you an idea if you're playing rhythm or whatnot, kind of how this guitar will sound. And last but not least, I'm just going to test some more effects with a lead type of sound. I'm a little bit rusty with that style of playing, but I'll at least try to make it work so you can get an idea. So hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of how this guitar sounds. What we're going to do now is get into the pros and cons of this instrument. Starting with the first pro, and that's got to be price, right? At around $160 at the time of this video, this is definitely one of the cheaper beginner guitars on Amazon. Combine that with the fact that I'm leaving you with a 5% off discount coupon code, and if you're a Prime member you get free shipping, it's kind of hard to do better than that in terms of price. The second pro to this guitar is definitely going to be the finish. Finish blemishes are one of the most common things that you'll find on budget instruments. In fact, of the past 5 guitars that I've reviewed that were under $500, 4 of them had pretty considerable finish blemishes that you could notice. Even looking at this guitar close up, there's no noticeable finish blemishes. The third pro to this guitar is going to be the hardware. One of the issues I've seen on budget guitars like this is that the set screws on the bridge can be sharp, and as you palm mute, it's kind of annoying and feels like just rough on your hand. This guitar didn't have that, and the trem was okay. You know, it was nothing that really stands out. If anything, I found it to be a little bit stiff for my personal taste. But what I'm going to do is open up the back of the cavity here and give you guys a look at these springs. Another thing that I've seen on budget instruments is that these springs actually corrode really quickly. And as you can see on this guitar, that's not the case. All the pots functioned as they should. There was no scratchiness or resistance. The 5-way switch had just the right amount of resistance and click to it. And the input jack was tightened down nicely. The paint on the bridge was good too. There was no pitting or anything about it that looked cheap. But where this guitar really stands out in terms of hardware is going to be the tuners. This was really a pleasant surprise as I'm used to swapping out tuners on budget instruments. From the outside, they really look like nothing special, but when you actually use them and you turn them, you feel they have a really good resistance against them with no play whatsoever, and the guitar held really good tune with them. That was definitely, to me, one of the highlights of this guitar was the tuners, and the fact that I'm not going to have to swap them out. It's also worth mentioning that the nut was slotted correctly. There was no pinching there. It is just a basic plastic nut, but it served its purpose and its function. Between the nut being slotted properly and the quality tuners, I found that this guitar held tune really well. Definitely a highlight of this instrument. The fourth pro to this guitar is that the setup was really good, with one exception that I'll get to in the cons. For the most part, I found the setup on this guitar to be really solid. It came with this sheet here attached to the headstock that actually had the measurements of the distance of the string from the frets. As you can see here, I'll take a close-up measurement, but it was actually quite accurate. And I was really surprised to see that the frets were polished. That really isn't common on a sub-$200 guitar. It's definitely impressive that a guitar at this price point comes pretty much set up and that there's nothing a beginner's really going to have to do to make it playable. And the fifth pro to this guitar is going to be, it actually comes with a nice soft-sided case. Sure, you get the typical Allen key and trem bar, but they actually threw in a soft-sided case and a pretty good looking strap along with an instruction manual. And this manual has important things in it for a beginner, like how to wrap a string around a post and what parts of the guitar are called. Which, for what it's worth, is quite nice. You're not going to have to run out and add the cost of a case onto an instrument. It just makes the value even better at this price point. And lastly, pro number 6, the pickups are actually decent. While they're definitely nothing special, and they're certainly not on par with like a Seymour Duncan or something like that, they're still a very capable pickup, and I was able to get some pretty good tones out of them. With that said, I'm probably going to swap them out because I do YouTube and I need content. So what I'll end up doing is swapping those out for something a bit more aggressive that's more conducive to my playing style. Definitely something that's more, metal. As with every other instrument that I've reviewed, it isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and there are a few cons to this guitar. The first con being, the fret ends were a little bit sharp. As mentioned with the setup to the guitar was fantastic. The one thing that I really kind of felt like was missed was the fret ends. They weren't wildly sharp or, wouldn't cut you or anything like that. It's just one of those things where it's a mild annoyance that you can kind of feel it. It also happens to be a very simple fix, which is what I'm going to do in an upcoming video. The second con was actually that the single coil pickups had a little bit more hum than I would have liked. Again, another issue that's easily solvable by either shielding the cavity or using a noise gate or something to that effect. And to be fair, the hum really isn't that loud. It just seemed a little bit more noticeable than a few other budget instruments that I have with single coil pickups. So ultimately, who is this guitar for? This guitar is for anyone who's just starting out or a beginner at guitar. This would be a fantastic instrument because right out of the box, it's pretty much set up, ready to play. And for a budget instrument, that's important because you're not adding the cost of a luthier on to set the guitar up. This guitar would also be good for intermediate and more seasoned players that are looking to learn how to mod or set up instruments. This way you're not trial and erroring on a more expensive guitar, and if you make a mistake, it's really not the end of the world. And moreover, because this guitar has good bones, when you're done modding it out, you're actually going to have a pretty killer guitar. This would also be a good guitar for someone who's looking to bring a guitar to either practice or gig with and not have to worry about it getting lost, stolen, or damaged. I tend to use guitars like this when I'm jamming with friends in the garage because if someone knocks it over on the stand or something happens, it's not the end of the world and it's rather inexpensive to replace. So as mentioned before, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description to not only this guitar, but to FESLEY's main website. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to sub the channel as I'm going to be working on this guitar, modding it out, and also doing reviews of other budget instruments. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.